I remember I believe it was Don Moen who, way back, and this would be in the 80s, maybe the early 90s, but I think it was the 80s. So it was a long time back, just when Integrity Hosanna, and that's a name that probably most people don't even know anymore, but you and I know it. They were pivotal in the worship world way back when, before Hillsong, before even the Vineyard. But he talked to me about the three kinds of worshipers there are, and it's always stuck with me. And he talked to me about the willing worshiper. And the willing worshiper is the one who just, they come into church and they have been worshiping all week, and they're just ready to keep it going, to enter in. And again, you don't have to do much except to announce the song, start the hymn, get the bands going, and you're off and running, and they are right there with you. They are the willing worshiper. And then he talked to me about the waiting worshiper. And that waiting worshiper is the one who's probably the typical worshiper, I would say in many ways, who they're waiting to be invited. They're waiting to be, to find that worship leader as she announces a song and talks about the week that we've had, and just but they're waiting to be drawn in. They're waiting to be shepherded, in, again, using that beautiful word. They're just waiting. And so again, I think that's the typical person, that they're ready to come. They want to, but they're kind of waiting. They're maybe still on Friday from work, and here it is Saturday night or Sunday morning or whatever, whenever the service is scheduled. And then Don talked to me about the wounded worshiper. And this was so helpful to me because I used to take it quite personally when people wouldn't sing. I don't know if you ever did. If it's a hymn, they're sort of sitting back waiting for the hymn to be over, and then when the praise song comes in, then they're front and center and ready. And sometimes if it's a hymn, they're this way, they're front and center singing, and then when you do a praise song or a worship song, they're back waiting because it's not their thing. And that's how I always thought about it. Or I thought, they don't like the song, they don't like me, and my sinful and human brain just sort of went crazy with all the possibilities of why they weren't participating. And Don reminded me in this conversation that there are the wounded worshipers, and there are the ones who maybe their greatest act of worship that morning was getting out of bed and coming. And they might sit there and seemingly be unresponsive, but their act of worship, because they're so hurt or wounded by life or broken, that their presence is their worship. And I mean, he just started to sort of blow my mind about the kinds of people that are sitting in front of us. And of course, I came to a point in my life when my mother was passing away where I was the wounded worshiper. And I remember so often, for weeks, over about a 6-month period, every week I had to lead worship, and starting a song, and within seconds not being able to sing, and within more seconds just weeping. I was so wounded as my mom walked through her cancer battle, and I couldn't sing. And I'm up in front leading. The paradox of it was mind-blowing and frankly embarrassing. And yet I had this incredible congregation, this incredible worship team, this incredible choir, and they lifted those words of "Great is thy faithfulness," when in many ways God didn't seem faithful to me or to my mother at all. She was an incredible godly woman, and that she'd been struck by this and da-da-da-da-da. And yet here she was, and these people lifted these words that I was incapable of lifting in that moment, and surrounded, and it continued to bless me and fill me up, and continue to point me towards God rather than towards bitterness or being angry and all of the other choices of a road that I could perhaps walk on regarding my mother's illness. And that really brought to life in that verse that Paul writes about the priesthood of all believers, that even though I was, quote, quote, the worship leader, it was all of this priesthood of believers that were ministering to me. And again, it wasn't just a one Sunday, it was Sunday after Sunday for about 6 months that I experienced this. So Don talked about the wounded worshiper, and that was so helpful for me to not judge people sitting in front of me who aren't singing, and not to feel the weight of that. Actually, that what do I have to do to get them to sing the right song, the right tempo, the wrong key, all those things that can be a part of that. And then as I've reflected on this, I've thought about one more worshiper that Don didn't mention, but it came to my mind, was the working worshiper. And that's the worship leaders, the band members, the people that are up making sure the video happens, and all the words, and all the coordinators, and the drummer and the guitarist and the organist and the choir, all of that, the working worshiper. And how we, I think, have to find our way into worship as well, so that we're not only leading in worship, but we truly are worshiping as well, that we are a part of that worshiping community and body as we lead. And I think that's an important distinction to model to our people: true, authentic worship, and not just true, authentic worship leadership. I think in those moments of leading, I think if we're only leading, I think we're missing. I think we're Martha in the kitchen, and I think we are Martha in the kitchen. I think we need to be that through the week. But man, when Sunday comes, or whatever moment of worship that is scheduled for, we have to become Mary and be at the feet of Jesus and wash his feet with that beautiful balm, and dry his feet with our hair, as she modeled that incredible act of worship that's continued to be talked about to today.